Is your hard drive almost full? If so, today I'm going to show you how to free up storage in Windows 11. Some of these tips you may not have known about. Stay tuned. So, this might seem like a basic topic, but in some cases, it can be quite difficult trying to figure out what to delete and what not to delete when you're trying to recover storage space. However, there are a few tools that you can use that make it a lot easier. Some of these tools come built into Windows, and others are third-party. I'll go over both today. There's also some tricks that you can use to determine if you're making use of all the storage space that you have available to you. We'll look into that too, but first, I gotta pay some bills. So, check out today's sponsor. Are you still running Windows 11 unactivated because the license just costs too much? Then you should check out today's sponsor, VIP-SCDKey, where you can get a valid Windows 11 license for around $20. Stop dealing with that stupid watermark and actually be able to change your desktop background with a valid license for Windows 11. Just go to the link in the description below and pick up a valid Windows 11 license key. During checkout, use the code CyberCPU for a 25% discount. Once you have your key, go to your activation settings in Windows 11 and click the link that says Change Product Key. Enter the product key you just purchased and hit Activate. Now you don't have to deal with that stupid watermark. And check out the description for deals on not just Windows, but Office too. Now, on with the video. So, we've got lots of things to cover today, so let's jump right on the computer and get right to it. Okay, so here we are in Windows 11, and as you can see, if we go into this PC, our hard drive is completely full. So we got to do something about that. So the first thing that I would look into is if you go right here to your Start button, click on Settings, then you want to go into System, and then from System, you want to go into Storage. This will tell you kind of where some of your storage is going, at least into what categories it's being used in. And as you can see, in this case, most of my storage space is being taken up by apps. And I've got quite a bit taken up by documents as well, and even some taken up by temporary files. But what I actually want to talk about here isn't necessarily all of these categories. However, we will get into that. But it's this feature in Windows 11 called Storage Sense. And if you turn this on right here, then what this will do is it will automatically free up space by deleting temporary files and things of that nature. Now, it doesn't do a whole bunch because obviously, as you can see, if we go into this PC again, it's turned on and I'm still full. However, it will help to kind of reduce space that doesn't need to be wasted. So it is a good idea to have that turned on. And if you click right here, it'll give you an idea of what kinds of things that it does. Like it empties the recycle bin every 30 days. It deletes files in your downloads folder. Well, it doesn't do that by default, but you can set it up to do that because, you know, a lot of people will download install files and then just leave them there for the life of their PC, which, you know, it takes up quite a bit of space in some cases. And also it will delete Windows temporary system files and things of that nature, which I'm going to get a little bit more into that a little bit later too. But this is a great little utility to have turned on so you can use it to, you know, at least get rid of some of the outlier stuff you may not have considered. However, let's go into the categories a little bit now, just like we talked about earlier. So in these right here, we can show more categories and it'll break it down into all kinds of different categories. As you can see, I have some videos, some pictures, and temporary files are taking up a lot, which Storage Sense is supposed to get rid of. I'm not sure why it didn't. But if you go through here and you click on all these different categories, it will open it'll kind of show you what it is that you're looking at. However, from what I've found, this isn't as useful as you might think it is because as you can see, if we sort it by size from large to small, our biggest program we have installed is 500 megabytes, and we don't have that much installed on here. So how, if our biggest program is 500 megabytes, are we looking at 259 gigs worth of installed apps? Well, the reason for that is if we scroll down, you'll notice that a few of these applications, if we can find them here, It's right here. We have Grand Theft Auto. If you guys are familiar, these are about 100 gigabytes a piece, yet it's not registering the size of the program itself because the new settings program really doesn't do a great job of that. So I'll show you a better way to look at installed applications a little bit later in the video. However, let's move on to the next thing, because while this program right here in Windows 11 in settings does work pretty good to show you what you have, it doesn't do a great job of cleaning up for you. So let's go ahead and close this and then click on the start button and just search for disk cleanup. And then once you run this is going to kind of give you all the different categories here of things that you could get rid of. You could get rid of shaders and temporary files and things of that nature. And if you scroll through this list, you can see quite a bit of stuff. Like for instance, right now my recycle bin has 1.4 gigabytes of stuff in it. And believe it or not, for some reason, people like to leave stuff in their recycle bin. I'm not sure exactly why, but it is a fact. Sometimes I'm worried about emptying it on customers' computers, thinking that they might be storing stuff in their recycle bin when it starts to get this large. But one thing that you can do from within disk cleanup is also push this button right here where it says cleanup system files. And if you push that, it'll go through and it'll kind of give a more deep dive into what you have on your computer. And in a lot of cases, it'll allow you to delete downloaded program files, Windows upgrade log files, which in this case is about half a gigabyte or so. It'll allow you to do Windows update cleanup, which this one right here is a really good one to use. Obviously, this system doesn't have too much to do there, but in many systems, this can be quite big. And also the Windows upgrade log files can sometimes get big too. And then if you scroll down here, you can see it still has the same categories that the non-system version of disk cleanup had. However, you also have settings that you can only do as an administrator, like for instance, the device driver packages. Now on mine, it's 0, but if you have a system that's been running for a long period of time and it's gotten driver updates, what this does is it actually keeps copies of all previous installed device drivers on your system so you can roll back to earlier drivers. Now, this could save you a lot of space if you've had a system running for an extended period of time. However, just keep in mind that if you do delete this right here, then you won't be able to roll back your drivers to a previously installed driver. So just keep that in mind. If you ever have any driver problems, this could be less than beneficial. But if we keep scrolling down here, it'll also allow you to delete thumbnails. And what thumbnails are is if we go ahead and click here, let's open up our pictures. As you can see, I have thumbnails for all of these pictures right here. Well, what this setting does right here is it deletes all the different cached thumbnails that you have stored on your hard drive. Now, in this case, I don't have many because this is just a temporary operating system that I use to film videos. However, if you have a system that's been in service for quite a few years, you probably have quite a few thumbnails. You may have thumbnails generated that's taking up disk space on folders that you haven't looked at in years. So it's a good idea too. You can also delete this. And then essentially what would happen is next time you open that folder, it'll just generate new thumbnails and you have to start the whole process again. But at least you're starting out from scratch. And then ultimately, we're going to go ahead and close this here. We're going to go ahead and close disk cleanup. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to manually delete some things that can help you to save some space. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go look at how much space we're actually using right now. And we're sitting at 14 gigs. Now, the reason why this is going down is because I'm currently screen recording this and saving that video onto the system. So as the video saves, I get less and less space. So I need to free up some space pretty quick. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to continue this video. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the C drive, and there's two places where you can pretty safely delete files on a regular basis. Now, the first one is going to be the Windows folder, and then we're going to go down to the temp folder here. And typically everything that's inside of this folder can be deleted. So go ahead and just delete it. It's not a big deal. And then go into the C drive, go into the users folder, go into your user folder or any other user folder that you may have loaded on the system. Go ahead and click on that. And then what you're going to do is go into the address bar up here. You don't want to delete what's already there. All you want to do is you want to do a backslash and type app data. And then hit enter, and this will get into the hidden app data folder. And then you want to go into local, and if you scroll down, you'll see another temp folder. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of files inside of this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and highlight all of these files here and delete them just like that. Go ahead and hit continue if it asks you for administrator permission. And some things it's not going to allow you to delete, and that's probably because they're currently being used by a program that's open. And in this case, it looks like it's Google Chrome. But we'll get into that a little bit more later. And for that, you can just go ahead and hit skip. And then if you want, instead of hitting skip a bunch of times, you can do this for all current items and then just hit skip. And that's okay, because as you can see, we reduced it down to, see how much space we have now is 21 megabytes. I think we were at 11 gigs earlier. So if we go back to our this PC, as you can see, we haven't saved any space at all. And that's because everything we just deleted went into the recycle bin. So if we go ahead and open the recycle bin, as you can see, this originated in our temp folder. And we got a ton of stuff inside of this recycle bin. So it's a good idea to keep this clear right here. So to do that, all you gotta do is just empty your recycle bin, hit yes. And it might take a second to go ahead and do it, but go ahead and hit continue. And we're gonna let this thing delete. And now when we close this, you'll see that now we're down to 15.4 gigabytes. So we saved quite a bit of space right there, but there's still lots more to do. Now, what we've covered so far is the utilities that come built into Windows. These work really well and are helpful to keep your disk kind of in check. But there are many third-party tools that I highly recommend using that will break it down a lot more than the built-in utilities in Windows. Let's jump back in the system real quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so as you can see, we didn't save a whole lot of space using the Windows utilities. In fact, if we go back to disk cleanup right now, we're just going to take a look at that real quick. As you can see, most of the stuff that we're going to save space on is absolutely nothing. We got 3 megabytes here, 13 megabytes here, absolutely nothing. Even if we go into the system area, which once we open it, you'll see we got 190 megabytes here. Well, that's a little bit more. We've got 500 megabytes here. That's quite a bit more. So we could go through and we could delete all this stuff. But even if we did, let's go ahead and do all of that right now, and we'll see how much space we're actually going to save if we just let it take out everything. So we're going to scroll down. Already did our recycle bin, our temporary files we already did. So we're going to go through. It's going to save us a total of 757 megabytes. Yeah. We're going to need a little bit more than that. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK, and we're just going to let it do it. So it's going to take a minute to go through this process, but once it does, we'll see that we'll have maybe 16 gigabytes free. So I'm going to let this finish, and then I'll meet you back here when it's done. Okay, so that finished up and we're down to 18.6 gigabytes. So that actually saved a lot more than I thought, but we're still in the red. We still need to save some space. So like I said, with the Windows tools that are built in, they're good to kind of give you an overview and help you scrape some of the fat. However, there are some tools that can help you even more. Now, in a lot of cases, when you're looking at this, it's hard to tell where you're actually losing space at. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and show you a program that I like to use. And this program is called Tree Size Free. And essentially, it's a free program. It's portable that you can kind of keep on a thumb drive. I use this constantly on customers' computers. And to download it, I'll go ahead and leave a link to this in the description below. We're just going to go ahead and download the free version here. And then right here, it gives you the option to do the installer or the portable. I always use the portable version of this program. I don't think I've ever installed it before, but if you have, let me know how it works. Otherwise, go ahead and let it download. It'll take a second to download. We can open it up here, and I'm going to go ahead and extract it real quick. And now that it's extracted, we can go ahead and close all these other folders that we have open. So as you can see, we're sitting at 18.5 gigabytes free of 351 gigabytes total. So we're going to go ahead and run this program. And once you run it, you'll notice that since we didn't run it as administrator, it gives you the option right here to start it as the administrator, which I recommend doing because you're going to need to get into some folders that you need administrator rights to get into. So once you do that, you're just going to select a directory. And for that, you're just going to select the C drive here and go ahead and hit OK. And it'll go through and it scans every single folder on the computer and tells you where all your space is going. Now, as you can see, our program files take up 73% of our hard drive. So that's where everything is at. However, we still have 16% inside of our user folders. So let's go ahead and do that one first. So we drop this down, we can see, of course, it's my user profile where everything is at. You go down, you'll see that, oh, okay, there's 8.9 gigabytes in our download directory and 43 gigabytes in our documents folder. So we're gonna go ahead and, if you want to see what's in there, you just right click, hit open, and it'll open it in File Explorer. And as you can see, well, I've got a bunch of ISO files. Like right here, this is over 11 gigs right here. So if we were to highlight this and delete it, and then go into our, oh, we got older Windows builds. We open that, and of course, another folder full of ISOs. We're gonna go ahead and highlight it, delete it, hit yes. And then once this is gone, we're gonna go ahead and empty our recycle bin because of course they all went into our recycle bin. And then once we did that, as you can see now, once we go to our C drive, well now we're at 62 gigabytes free and we're no longer in the red. However, we're still using a lot of space. So let's go ahead and go into our downloads folder and see that one here. So as you can see in our downloads folder, we have 8.8 gigabytes of files. So we're gonna go ahead and right click, hit open. And as you can see, I got a whole bunch of garbage inside of here. So obviously I don't need anything inside of my downloads folder. At least you shouldn't be storing stuff in your downloads folder. You should organize it within your system. It'll make it a lot easier to keep it clean in the future. So what I would do is click on the top one, scroll all the way to the bottom, click on hold the shift key, click on the bottom one, and then hit delete, and it should delete everything inside your downloads folder. And then from there, we're gonna go ahead and right click, empty our recycle bin again. And as you can see, I did keep our tree size because we're actually using that program right now. We don't wanna delete it. But now you can see we're down to 71 gigabytes free, but still we're using an awful lot of space. So once we go in here, let's go ahead and look at what the biggest offender was with our program files. And we open this up, of course it's Steam, with 98.2% of this folder having data from Steam. So we're gonna go ahead and open that up. It's gonna be Steam apps. We're gonna open it up. It's gonna be common. We're gonna open that up again. And of course we've got both versions of Grand Theft Auto. And we also have Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Well, do we really need all of these programs? In fact, if you're hurting for disk space, do you need the legacy and the enhanced version of Grand Theft Auto? Probably not. So what you can do with those is now that you've identified what it is that's taking up space, we can go ahead and go down here. We can open up Steam, and then from Steam, we'll go ahead and go to our Grand Theft Auto. And of course, it wants to update it. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of the legacy version, and we'll keep the enhanced one on here. So to do that, you just go ahead and right click on it, go to Manage, and click Uninstall, and it'll uninstall that app from Steam. Go ahead and hit yes, and go ahead and let it uninstall. And let's just say for the sake of argument that I haven't played Shadow of the Tomb Raider in ever. So we're gonna go ahead and uninstall it too. And then I would go through your Steam library, especially if you're hurting for space, and decide what it is you want and don't want inside of your Steam library. Because these games, a lot of times, can take up a tremendous amount of space, as you just saw. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and close this now. We're gonna go back into here, and we're gonna go ahead and refresh this PC. And now, all of a sudden, we're 220 gigabytes free of 351. However, we're still using an awful lot of space. If you right-click and go into Properties, we're currently using 130 gigabytes of a 350 gig drive. So once you go through and delete all the files that you don't need anymore, it's time to make some hard decisions. At this point, it's time to start uninstalling programs. Unfortunately, if you don't have enough disk space and you deleted all of the data that you can spare, your only thing left to do is uninstall programs or upgrade your hard drive. But either way, we're gonna have to make some decisions on what applications are important. So let's jump back on the system and I'll show you how to uninstall stuff a little bit better than the Windows 11 settings. Let's get to it. Okay, so we can go ahead and close these things that we have running right here. I'm gonna go ahead and close tree size view because we're done with that. And we'll go ahead and close our download directory here. And then we're gonna go down, we're gonna click on the start button, and I just want you to search for control panel. We're gonna open the old control panel. We're at least gonna make use of it while Windows 11 allows us to. They haven't gotten rid of it yet. And then go ahead and click right here where it says uninstall a program. And if you click there, you'll see that I think this is a much better way to be able to uninstall programs. However, if you click on Grand Theft Auto, it still doesn't show the size, so that kind of stinks. But anyway, if you go through here, essentially just go through, look for programs that you just don't need, and scroll through this list and just decide what it is that you want to uninstall. Now, as you can see, I'm running a pretty slimmed down version of Windows on this thing. However, there are some things that I could delete. Like for instance, we got paint.net. We can go ahead and click there, click uninstall, and then go through the program's default uninstaller in order to uninstall the software. And then just repeat that on all the other programs that you want to get rid of. Now, at this point, there's not much left to delete. So now we just need to find if there's a way that we can just make our drive bigger. And this may seem unusual, but it's a problem that happens quite a bit. Some systems come with a factory partition with a very small partition for the operating system and then a large partition for your data. I've always thought that this practice was stupid because the majority of the time, the data partition remains completely empty while the primary partition is completely full. So let me show you how to check to see if you have that problem and how you can resize your primary partition to give yourself some more space. So let's jump back on the system and I'll show you how. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and close all this stuff up. As you can see, we're still sitting at 220 gigs. We're gonna go ahead and right click on our start menu here and go into disk management. And then from disk management, you'll see that, well, look at that. I've got 600 gigabytes that are just completely unallocated, that aren't being used for anything. Now I could just create a new partition at this point, and then I would have a D drive here. And this would be similar to what a lot of manufacturers do, and they give you kind of a data partition. And if you look, this 600 gigs is almost double of what I have total in my drive right here. However, I think there's a better way to deal with this situation. What we're gonna wanna do is resize our C drive to take up everything so we don't have a second partition. We can just make use of all of the space on a single drive. And to do that, I would recommend using Hiren's Boot CD. And I'll go ahead and leave a link to this down in the description below. But I'm gonna go ahead and get booted off of Hiren's Boot CD, and I'll meet you there. Okay, so here we are in Hiren's Boot CD, and this process is really simple. We're just gonna click the start button. We're gonna go to all programs, go into hard drive tools, and we're gonna go into partitioning tools, and we're gonna use EZU's Partition Master right here. So once this launches, it's gonna take a second to launch. We should be able to jump right into it. All right, so as you can see, here's our 600 gigs of unallocated space. Now this might be a data partition that came from the factory. And if that's the case, then go ahead and back up everything that might happen to be on that partition and then delete the partition. So you'll essentially be in the same position that I'm at here. And then go to your C drive, because that's the drive that we want to use all the space. We're gonna right click on it. We're gonna hit resize and move. And then right here, we're gonna drag this little thing right here. We don't want the star. We want the little barbells right here. And we're gonna go ahead and click on it and drag it all the way to the end. And as you can see, this is the physical limit on the drive, but this program will essentially move all the partitions out of the way. So once you hit OK, you'll see that this partition just gets moved over to the end. At least it will once we hit apply. And then we'll go ahead and have all of our space on our C drive. So once we have it the way that we want it, we're gonna go ahead and push this where it says execute one operation. Yours might say more because if you had to delete a data partition first, it might have a couple different executions. But once you're ready, go ahead and push that button, hit apply, and it'll go ahead and perform the tasks. And it'll take a minute to get through it. On mine, it's gonna be relatively quick because we were able to clean a lot off the hard drive, obviously. And once it's done, we're gonna go ahead and hit finish, and there you go, it's done. We can go ahead and close this, and then I'll go ahead and meet you back in Windows. So here we are back in Windows. We're gonna go ahead and click on our File Explorer, go down to this PC, and as you can see, we're doing pretty good now, with 823 gigabytes free of 953. So we went from a drive that was completely full to a drive that's essentially empty at this point. Ultimately, your system probably isn't going to have all of the issues that mine had. That's because the issues that mine had were engineered based on systems that I've seen in the past. I intentionally made this system have those issues so I could show you how to resolve them. However, using these tips, you should be able to save yourself a considerable amount of space. The rule of thumb here that I used to recommend is that your drive is over 50% full, then it's probably time to upgrade to a bigger drive. However, I don't really agree with that philosophy anymore. However, you still need to have a considerable amount of disk space. And if you've done everything that you can to free up space on your drive and you still don't have enough, then it might be time to upgrade to a bigger SSD. Luckily, I have a video that shows you how to do that. And I'll go ahead and pin that right here. You can upgrade to a new SSD without losing any of your data simply by imaging your old SSD to your new one. It's really kind of easy. But as always, you guys have a great day.